Hi, I'm going to make a little drawing of this painting by Vermeer. There's been some dispute about whether Vermeer painted this, and when I look at this I think, well, it looks like a Vermeer who wanted to make a quick painting for once, and I like this, so I'm going to make a drawing of the face. I'm going to use grain paper by Clairefontaine, and I'm using this Koh-i-Noor mechanical pencil. So I have these leads by Cretacolor Brevilliers 5.6 millimeter. So this is one out of this pack, and I'm going to draw with this. And what I'm going to do now in this drawing is that I'm going to build it up from tonal values. I'm going to build up the drawing of tonal values, so I do not start with lines. I just start with let's say a tonal area, a dark area, and I proceed from there. So I'm not consciously measuring. I'm just drawing the outlines. So when you are doing this and you don't have much experience in measuring and drawing, I would draw the outline first, but I tend to do it this way. So we have this painting in which the light comes from the right, and there's a shadow on the left and also a shadow cast by her head. And I want to fill the whole paper with these kind of drawings. I like that. So usually you have this white paper and somewhere here there's a drawing, and and there is whiteness of the paper at the borders, but I try to use all of the paper now, mostly for 95%, let's put it this way. Maybe there are some borders that are still white of the paper. But let's just do this. The vertical lines of her head. And I think I want some more definition of her face, her eyes. So I just place suggestively some accentuations. I'm not drawing very detailed, and every time that I draw a certain area, that's also a sort of new, let's say, point of coordination for other areas. So you build upon what you have already drawn on the paper, and so when you have this area accentuated, it's easier to add another area. And again, this is not a very detailed way of drawing. I like how the grain of the paper goes together with the relatively crude, so to speak, way of drawing with this broad 5.6mm pencil. Here the earrings. She's wearing pearl earrings, so that's, I just add some accentuations. Now I want to focus a bit more on her face. So that's the main part. Her neck. But to convincingly draw the tonal values of her face, I have to draw the surrounding areas as well, to get a sense of the relationship between the darkness of what I'm drawing in her face, the darkness in the surrounding area. Because when you are drawing a face to a certain completeness and then you start drawing the area, it might be that the face appears too light or so, that you have to adjust the tonal values of her face afterwards again, because in relation to other areas it has become too light perhaps later on in the drawing. So I go from one area to another to work this up in a general manner, so everything gets a certain treatment. But let's now focus on her face, because I feel that I've done enough of the surrounding area to proceed with her face now. So now I added these two accentuations, which are more detailed or smaller than before, and I work towards that. I mean, later on I will even add some smaller accentuations, I think. So as I was progressing in this drawing, I slowly came to the point that I could place those accentuations quite easily. But there was a certain build-up, you know, making this area more complete, discovering where everything should be. A little bit sharper now. I thought they were a little bit too low perhaps. So along the way you can make adjustments. So now I'm working on these two sides. So the shadow of the head must be darker than this, for example, but this has to be darker than her face. And then you have this white clothing, which also needs a tonal value. After taking a little break and with a set of fresh eyes, I'm looking at this drawing and I'm wondering what's wrong with it. The eyes do not seem to be placed properly. It's not perfect, but I just proceed. This can be a bit smaller. I'm wondering if I put the eyes a bit too low. I think maybe they need be a little higher. So I just go on with this drawing and I'll see what I end up with. I'm trying to make them a bit higher, which makes them now a bit elongated almost. So this might not be my most successful drawing, but anyway, I just proceed with it. Now I want to draw tonal values within the lighter area. And especially this area is the lightest area. And this area is a bit darker. And this is slightly darker than this area, so I try to be careful about those tonal values. Now I need to work on the head a little bit because the head is darker than this area. So now there's some sort of competition. When I look at this drawing, this takes away too much attention from this area. So I want to make her head of a darker tonal value in general. So there is one area, well, this area is also light. But this area had to be a little darker than it was. And this can be a lot darker. And by creating a drawing all over the paper using these tonal values, it gets a more painterly character, so to speak, than if I make a sketch in the middle of the paper. And I like both approaches, but I like this as well. And this kind of pencil invites almost an approach like this. Oops. I believe that Seurat made drawings also composed from tonal values, so maybe I should talk a little bit in a video later on about other artists' their drawings. So Seurat is a sort of reference point, but I have to look it up actually. But I think I had his drawings in mind more or less when I started making these kind of drawings for these videos. His circus themed drawings. I think I was thinking of that, but I'm not even totally sure, but I think so. Ooh. I have to watch out here. I think I made this a little too dark. So one has to watch out not to put too much pressure or not keep at one area, you know, keep drawing too long on one area, because it can become too dark and form some sort of line like what happened here. So maybe it dissolves a bit in how the drawing will become, but maybe that I don't want to use an eraser, because I think that would be really ugly. Because then the structure of the pencil on the grained paper, then there's a sort of smooth area, I'm afraid, which I don't like in this case. I want this to have a certain grain. I'm starting to like the character now of the eyes. They're a bit elongated because I had to do a correction. I think I drew them a little bit too low, and now they are a bit larger than they should be perhaps, but I actually like that effect. That's my impression at this moment. So I just proceed drawing. When do you quit on such a drawing? I could have quit 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, or I can go on for half an hour. And at this moment I'm having a little bit of fun with this. And I'm just curious how it will turn out if I proceed with this drawing instead of quitting now. But it's always the question, when do you stop with a drawing like this, for example? When is it enough, you know? The drawing as it was intended is more or less reached that point, because I have filled the whole area with with pencil, and there is this image, but I still see areas where I can work on. And sometimes you must conclude that halfway the drawing was better. But that's the point about making these videos, that you sometimes have to conclude that at the 13th or 14th minute it was a better drawing than at the 20th minute. But that's part of the game of doing this. And I like how this is going, so I just go on adding tonal values, making it darker at places. This can be darker. This area needs to be a little darker. And this here too. And now I'm looking at all kinds of areas to improve. Where can I improve something? I made this a little too broad, I think, too high here. I think it should be like this. So what can I do? Because this is dark, but I can make this a little even more darker. And so there's a difference between this area and this area. So it's all about relationships between the one part and the other. And I needed a little accentuation to make this stand out from this area, which has become now the background for this. So sometimes you make a mistake and you need to find something to make it work again, or make it work. Anyway, there are these lines in that head that I need to accentuate a little bit. Now I'm adding tonal values that are related to the structure of the head, the vertical lines that you see on the head and the areas that you know, light and dark areas in that. I once read somewhere that the lines on the head are a bit inconsistent with how these actually are, these type of heads. So, because this is, I presume, a round head, and you have these vertical lines but shouldn't they come from the middle or something? I don't know. I never saw such a hat in real life, but one wonders if it is possible that Vermeer modified a hat in his painting with vertical lines that weren't in the actual hat that his model was wearing, if his model was even wearing a hat. Maybe he invented it totally, who knows. We cannot ask him anymore. That would be nice. Hey Vermeer, how do you do that? Well, I do this and that. Still a difficult painting to make, then. So, a little bit of accentuation for her earrings. Those accentuations are quite effectful, I see now. I like that. And this needs to be adjusted a little bit. And so I'm slowly getting towards the point that I think, well, how long do I proceed with this? Do I go on another 10-20 minutes, or do I wrap this up and say, well, this is it? Would it be a better drawing if I proceed for another 20 minutes? But I like how this is going actually, so I'm not really finished now. I want this to be a little darker. And as you can see, there aren't really any lines in this. Perhaps this comes close, this little detail. There aren't really lines, it's just tonal values. And sometimes I place an accentuation to suggest a certain linear shape, like here. I do not really have a line, but there are all kinds of accentuations in the edge of that hat, which defines the hat. Define the hat. I place some accentuations in her mouth, her eyes, and I'm at the point that I think maybe I did too much here. Maybe I should have stopped 2 minutes ago. I shouldn't have done that accentuation. I'm not sure now. I need to blend it in the rest. Maybe that's too sharp now. So now I proceed anyway, a little bit more even. But I'm at the point now that I think I should stop. So, now I'm looking for the last things to do about this drawing. It's not a perfect drawing. This is, for example, a little bit too dark, but I don't want to use an eraser because, as I said, it would create some sort of, it would break the structure of the grained paper with this pencil. I'm looking at the composition now of the background. It needs some more here and there. But I think I leave it at this, although now you see how difficult it is to stop. I stop. Thank you for watching. Wait a minute. I leave it at this. Thank you. Oops, this.